Hello and welcome back to Archaeosoup Towers in a new year. 2020 is here. Not only a new year, but by most people's reckoning, a new decade. It's the millennium thing all over again without the Y2K bug.
But now the latest on the millennium bug with Peter and Philippa.
Indeed, and Gabby, we mustn't forget that with all this excitement going on, there are some very, very worried people all over the world. The millennium bug, has it struck or hasn't it? 25, 35 minutes from now, we'll know what's happening in this country, what's happened over all the rest of the world. Those bugs are going to crawl all over our computers and make the planes fall out of the sky. Are they doing it or not? Well, now let's look at our bug watch map. Here it is. And the big threat really seems to be in Japan. Nothing much has happened in Southeast Asia.
Is that question of, was the new millennium when the calendar shifted from the year 1999 to the year 2000, or when the calendar shifted from the year 2000 to the year 2001? Technically, it's when it shifted to the year 2001, but the more dramatic, more pleasing, more satisfying calendrical shift was when it shifted from 99 to 2000, and really that's when all this stuff was happening, isn't it? The Millennium Bridges were being built, the Millennium Dome was built. Remember that thing in London? It's the O2 Arena now. Blimey. I remember was it a Kodak advert? There was an advert where people going, what were people doing in the last millennium, eh? And there's some sort of barbarian sliding down a table, and someone takes a snap of them, you know. If I can find the advert, I'll share it for you here. But the point is, by consensus, 20 years on from then is now. So we are now, by consensus, passing into a new decade. And what better a time than now to look back on the past year or so and reflect a little bit on Archaeosoup in 2019. In 2019, I made 153 videos, and by my reckoning, that's one video every 2.38 days. No, I did the calculation a couple of days ago. I'm not that fast with maths. But the point is, every 2.5 days-ish, there was a new video on Archaeosoup. And we started the year, and don't worry, this isn't going to be a full video-by-video review, but we started the year with Artifacts Spartans versus money. This was a really nice video to start the year with. It was a little reminder after a time of plenty, you know, Twixtmas, when we've all had presents and plenty of food, that there are cultures and times when people didn't value necessarily the same type of more that we do. In this instance, the Spartans deliberately made money cumbersome, clunky iron, you know, chunks of stuff. So if this was like a £1 coin, if you wanted £10, you have to carry 10 of these around with you. It was a time and a place when wealth wasn't as valued as it is today, and certainly the idea of always getting something new in terms of materialism, I suppose. So to have a little bit of anti-materialism at the beginning of the year was I think a palate cleanser for 2019. We followed that up with, ironically, a thing that I got and paid for in the post. And that was making a Lego Archaeology Lab. I had a lot of fun putting this thing together. And also, I'm really happy that you guys enjoyed this. It was really, frankly, it was really nice to be able to highlight the Etsy store of the guy who makes these, an American archaeologist who clearly is frustrated with the portrayal of science or certain sciences in Lego, and wanted to portray something a bit more realistic and genuine. And I love how the lab is a little bit ramshackle, the walls aren't perfect, the process here is very much post-X, so they've got bags of soil there to be dried, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. Check out the video if you want to know more. And crucially, check out the video if you want to find the link to the Etsy store, because they're great Lego sets, and it was a real pleasure to share it with you, and also frankly to have the excuse to put it together, because, you know, and to get hold of one, if I'm honest. It's up there on a floating shelf, and I love it. So yeah, second video of the year, making in a Lego Archaeology Lab. It's undeniable that 2019, as with the past few years in fact, has been a year when I felt history happening around me. Ever since the big Brexit referendum here in the UK, there have been a succession of milestones, or potential milestones, when things could change forever. I remember back in January there was going to be a big parliamentary vote on an element of the withdrawal bill that actually ended up not having the impact that it could have done for various reasons. But ultimately, it's been that kind of a triptych of years, a trilogy of years, in so much as if you are a thinking person, if you're a politically engaged person, if you are a compassionate person, dare I say, if you care about the impact of things like Brexit on your fellow human beings, particularly here in the northeast of England, where people don't have much of a buffer if the economy and other things go bad. It's been stressful, and so 2019 definitely partly was that, and there was just this day almost a year ago when I felt compelled just to reflect that, just to, well, actually acknowledge it, because I was trying to work through it, just, you know, keep working, but it was very hard, especially following Christmas. We have the next video of the year was Real World Archaeology Alpha 2018. It was a review of a movie that came out in 2018 that I had to do a puppies and kittens edit of, which for copyright reasons basically meant I had to put kittens over the footage of the movie. I quite enjoyed that, actually, but crucially it led to an interview with Carl Lee, here he is, of Primitive Technology UK, because he had seen my review, agreed with lots of elements of it, and crucially was really up for having a chat about what it was like being an archaeologist working with the production company. And so he sent me, as part of that interaction, a beautiful Gravettian flint spearhead, wonderfully made, although I kept on cutting myself on it in the interview. But it was really nice actually to be able to be able to hear about and really explore a positive relationship between a specialist and a production company, and in that sense also to share that with you guys. That was really good. And another sort of similar interview that I enjoyed last year. Frankly, I enjoyed all of them, and that's something I want to continue in 2020, is finding new people to talk to, because just having other people's voices on this channel is very important to me. Being able to share other people's expertise and to showcase other people's capabilities, it means that frankly you're getting a more honest insight into archaeology. You know, one person can't be archaeology, but one organization can't be archaeology. And so in this case, I was interviewing Neal Ackerman of Ackerman Archaeology about the not-so-ancient stone circle that was made in the 1990s. And he was a really good sport, actually, because we'd highlighted him as the Muppet of the Month in the watching brief in the previous month. And he actually was so amused by this, and also so up for talking about it, that I made him a certificate that he has in his office now, proclaiming him as a Muppet of the Month. He's very proud of it. But crucially, more than that, more than the joke, he was really up for highlighting how archaeologists are reliant on evidence and reliant on the best types of evidence that we can get our hands on. And up until a certain point, the evidence was this stone circle was ancient. But then when the evidence changed, he was very open about it. There's this myth that scientists in particular are very ego-driven, and that all we ever do is just try and make proclamations and then hide all evidence to the contrary. Protect what's ours. But in his case, that's not what he did, and it's also a really great example of what honest archaeologists are like, and I appreciated it. He's a great guy. Ackerman Archaeology, check it out if you need archaeological stuff done in Scotland. And really throughout the year, there were various times when I was experimenting with different things. So one of them, for example, was watching elements of a film with you, rather, sorry, in a video form. The movie Tomb Invader, also known as The Tomb Heart of the Dragon. They kept on changing the name, I think, on DVD release, depending on the film fashion. So when Tomb of the Dragon Emperor came out, presumably that's when they changed it to Heart of the Dragon. Anyway. It's a terrible movie. It's Lara Croft light. It's not very good at all. And I'm not sure I can show you any of this video without getting copyright claimed. So check it out if you want to see more of it. But the point is, it was fun. It was fun to watch that with you guys, and I want to do more film reviews this year as well. So not only was there Alpha, there was also, for example, Valhalla Rising. That was a great excuse to finally watch that fairly violent Mads Mikkelsen movie. And if I'm honest, the thing that put me off doing them this year was when my review of, what's it called? That's it, 1 million years BC. When that video was claimed by Studio Canal UK for very, well, because they had the copyright basically. But ultimately what it meant was that the fun was taken out of it. Yes, I can see technically in this instance I was watching the whole movie, and you could watch the whole movie with me. There is a legitimate copyright element there. But it was fun to have a bit of a commentary track going. So I've now shared a version where it is blurred out. It's safe now to show. It's not blocked in 90% of countries in the world, or in terms of my viewership. So if you want to watch it and get a sense of what I'm watching and hear that, do that. And whether it's commentary tracks or whether it's the balance of 5 good things, 5 bad things about a movie that I also do. I want to do more of that, more casually this year. Finding a balance is going to be a key theme, I think, of 2020, between being stressed out about the world, life and politics, and also my own private life as well, and having space and time to relax and rewarding myself with that in that sense, and acknowledging my need to relax, but also I think having not only working hard, but finding a way to work smart and have fun with it as well. And so I definitely want to, for example, continue with Zelda archaeology videos. I'm interested in responding to news of the day. For example, I was really pleased to be able to examine, when was this, back in April in 2019, the reasons for the not complete destruction of Notre Dame in terms of the shape of the ceiling. And you can see my old shed there in the background. That's something else that's great in 2019. I got a lovely new workshop, didn't I? But it was really nice to be able to talk about that using the egg as an example and reflecting on that. So I want to be nimble, as they say. I want to be able to respond to the news of the day in a way that's useful or entertaining. And actually, some people found that video really, really heartening to understand that the building wasn't completely trashed, and that actually that wasn't an accident. That was medieval architecture at work. Brilliant. Something that we started this year, Liv and I began, that I definitely want to get back to. We've just both had such a difficult time at the end of this year. Is the Skyrim Archaeological Survey. And I want to try and balance that on a fortnightly oscillating sort of cycle with streaming as well. I very much enjoyed this year streaming, or starting to stream at least, the game Humankind Odyssey, the evolution simulator. Sorry, my throat really is sore today. And so I wanted to be doing both of those. I was very much enjoying streaming that stuff and having live interaction with people on the chat. But also, Liv and I do want to continue with the Skyrim Archaeological Survey. We are enjoying it. We do want to do it, and we are going to continue with it. So you can expect more of that in 2020. Something I also want to do this year is I want to make time to make what I sometimes call more meaty videos. And this year was a strange, no, sorry, last year was a strange mix, in so much as there was, for example, InFocus, the Nebra Sky Disk. That was a video I'm very proud of, actually. I've been wanting to make that for years, actually. And to be able to focus on that, and in focus, pun intended, I guess, in April was finally, it felt good to do that. And crucially, it didn't take as long as I thought it would to make the thing. I just had to make time to make it. And so I'm going to try this year, 2020, to think about my time in a way that, so week by week, perhaps, or maybe on a fortnightly scale, I want to make sure that I block out time to give myself space to be creative and make this sort of thing that's educational, that is, as it were, more substantial, more meaty, or if you're vegan, more, you know, more vegan sausage rolly. The steak bake was just released in Greg's, the vegan steak bake, in fact, very popular. There was a midnight line in Newcastle. But anyway, the point is I want to give myself the time to make these sorts of videos more often this year, because I'm satisfied in making them, and you guys seem to enjoy watching them. This one, for example, got more than 1,000 views quite quickly. So I want to make more of those this year. And I suppose an example of that would be, a very substantial example would be Travelling Through Time Tinsley. This was a 50-minute film that we made, no less, in conjunction with the Tinsley Time and Travel project over the course of a couple of years. I filmed with those guys and edited this together back in May. And that was it. That felt like something I want to be doing. I want to be doing more substantial, more filmic things, if possible, as it were. But that also comes with, there's a time element there. There's also, I guess, a budgetary element there as well. This year, I'm continuing to work with the BMX project. In January, February, or March, you should see a film coming out of that. I'm working with a HLF project here in the northeast of England. I'm not sure if I can announce it yet, but that's on the horizon. And I would like to go to Orkney this year. But I'll talk about that more in a few weeks' time. Maybe in a couple of months' time. But this sort of thing, I want to give myself the space to do that in a way that doesn't feel forced and doesn't feel as though I'm dragging my tired behind to the keyboard to create something that I want to make. You see what I mean? Balance, as I say, is going to be a key theme of 2020, or at least seeking balance. There was, of course, some fun had throughout the year. Archaeology 5142, in this case, the T-shirt people, a clan of people, supposedly, who wore T-shirts, was fun to make. I very much enjoyed that, and I'm going to continue where I can, making these relatively light-hearted, but also actually serious videos as well. In highlighting things like the T-shirt people, or the era of the Great Middens, highlighting the amount of rubbish that's thrown away in the 21st century, the ancient moon sports on the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. I'm using humour and something that's a bit tongue-in-cheek to highlight some serious questions about how archaeology works, the presumptions that archaeologists make about the material that we look at every day, and in this case with the moon landing, I was very much having fun with concepts such as, well, for example, nationalism. With national flags. Will this even matter to people in the future? What flag you were born under? I don't know. It's hard to say. So it's fun. It's fun messing about with some of that stuff, and I will continue that in the new year. One thing that I really enjoyed making was the current channel trailer. In fact, what's new about the past. This was commissioned by a member of staff at a prominent British university, not Durham University or Newcastle, but another one. And it was great because she was really frustrated with people making presumptions about what archaeology is and what you need to do or have done to study archaeology. And she just said, can you just put something together? And that was brilliant because there was a little bit of budget there, and she just gave me a license just to play with footage and play with music and play with editing. And I suppose where possible, it's going to be good to be able, to do that this year if people have budget, or if people want to commission me to do something. But also, that's what I want to give myself space to do as well, is to play with this stuff and make compelling viewing for the viewing audience, for the viewing public. I believe in Vikings with Horned Helmets, a great interview with Howard Williams. Really enjoyed that. As we proceed through the year, really more, you know, there was a good solid pattern. I was really pleased with with the watching brief videos actually, how we started in this year making the thumbnails more interesting. They used to just be a guy looking into a trench, and now each one has a themed image or imagery. For example, I quite like this one with the hammer smashing down on Stonehenge. And I was really pleased with that. Actually, I'm really proud of the fact that we managed to get into a consistent cycle of videos in 2019. Me and, for example, Andy Brockman, who I often work with on the watching brief. That was good. That was good. I very much enjoyed that. And because I don't want this video to go on forever, I think what I would say is that that's kind of my hope for 2020, is to have a solid cycle, you know, to continue, for example, doing watching brief regularly, and to continue having time to have fun, for example, streaming, or, you know, interviewing Patrice Desier, the creator of the Humankind Odyssey. That was good fun, actually. Ancestors. But also, I want to try and make time to make those more substantial videos. So something a bit more carefully balanced, a little less flying by the seat of my pants this year would be fantastic, I think. And ultimately, hopefully, fun. That's really ideally what I'm after. is a bit of fun, and fun that I can share here on Archaeosoup. COPA. In 2020, I'm definitely going to have to keep an eye on COPA legislation. You may recall back in November, I essentially had to drop everything in order to deal with the possible effects of COPA legislation on this YouTube channel. And in doing so, I downloaded the whole channel over the course of a few weeks, actually, onto a 10 terabyte hard drive. It's just there. It's not plugged in because it's quite noisy, but it's just there on my desk. And so far, you know, we're 2 years into the new year. There's been no big COPA purges of the Archaeosoup channel, which is great. Nothing's been taken down. Nothing that I've been informed about, anyway. But we're yet to see how that's actually going to pan out. Because by some people's definition, educational content of any type is for children. Some people just don't do education beyond school, I guess. Black Death, well, that's a primary school topic, for example, you know. And by other people's definitions, using, for example, Lego pieces in educational videos is using toys. It's not using something that illustrates something in an accessible or amusing or entertaining way. It's actually, you know, appealing to children. Who knows how that's going to pan out? And I definitely have one eye on that. We're gonna have to see how it goes and where it goes. And I guess really ultimately 2020 is going to be a year that I'm going to start the year as open-minded and open-hearted and optimistic as possible. Finding this balance, fun, education. These are things that I want to do this year. This way of working that brings the best from last year, tries to let go of some of the stress that I had on my shoulders last year, and that tries to make room to do those more substantial projects that I want to do. But also at the same time acknowledges things like COPA and the seriousness of that, and also other things like the unknowns surrounding what it means to withdraw from the European Union and archaeology, and how that stuff will interact in terms of the heritage and history sort of sector. There are things on both ends of that seesaw, and I'm trying to, and this year I'm going to really seriously try to balance it out so that I don't feel so miserable, if I'm honest, at the prospect of what archaeology will be like in a year's time. It's going to be interesting, but together, hopefully, we'll have a good year. We may even have a year in which I start cooking again on the channel. Maybe archaeology gastronomy is returning this year. Possibly, I don't know for sure, but it's something to keep an eye on, I suppose. Yeah. Ultimately, thank you for watching. throughout 2019, and indeed before then. It has been, technically, around about a decade. And that is something that I'll be addressing along with the question of going to Orkney in a couple of months' time. But 2020 will also see the beginning of a year of celebrating 10 years of Archaeosoup. So, thank you for watching, but stick around. Let's see what happens next. As ever, guys, until next time, until next year? No, that doesn't make sense. Until next time, do take care. Bye-bye.